Hey everybody, it's Jonathan and I am back with another video, and this one is kind of special because it is Pride Month. So it's June. I'm trying to get some good content out this month, really kick this summer off with a bang, uploading regularly. So you're gonna get some lives on Instagram, some newer style content mixed with me talking about all of the books that I've bought since I've been gone. So yeah, prior to this, and I uploaded a book review for Akweke Emezi's latest novel prior to this. But prior to that, I had been gone for about 6 months. So I got a lot of content to make up for and a lot of books to talk about, which I'm very excited about. So today specifically, it's going to be Pride Month recommendations focused. I'm hoping that everybody that is on this channel that is subscribed, or this is your first time tuning in, you've maybe read, hopefully, some books by queer and trans authors prior to tuning into this video. But if not, hopefully this will be a good introduction to you of just some recommendations, books that I plan on reading, books that have a very special place in my heart that I've already read. And hopefully it'll kickstart your reading of queer and trans authors. But other than that, if you do regularly read, hopefully you're incorporating books by queer and trans voices throughout the year, not just during Pride Month. But I have 6 books to talk about. 3 of them I've read before, 3 of them I plan on reading this month, and these are all fiction They're all by Black queer authors, because y'all know that's my focus. So I'm really happy to talk about these books. So let's get right into these recommendations, and happy Pride Month. The first book that I'm going to talk about is literally the first book by a Black queer author that I ever purchased myself. And so it was my freshman year of college, and I ordered it off of Amazon. Y'all don't kill me. Along with An Invitation of Spirits by Randall Keenan. I'm actually reading his collection of short stories this month, which I'm loving so far. A Visitation of Spirits by Randall Keenan, this book, and then For Colored Boys Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Not Enough, which is an anthology, a sort of collection of poems and short stories written by Black and Latino queer men, put together by Keith Boykin. So that was literally just my introduction to everything. And y'all, my freshman year of college, I finally felt so free, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna start reading books by Black queer authors, and this is where I'm at now. So it was Invisible Life by Lynn Harris. And I literally, because as I've sort of been networking and meeting new people, and I start of course talking about books, I'm like, especially when you meet other Black queer men, you're like, okay, so what have you been reading? And not a lot have read Lynn Harris, and which always surprises me. But when you're looking for a book that is it really draws you in because it's interesting and messy and kind of just like the reality television shows that maybe you're kind of used to, and you want something that's not super academic, but you want something that also has some grit, some message to it. Invisible Life, all of Lynn Harris's books, I think up through the 90s, I would say that the ones that deal with these particular characters, so probably everything up to through I Say a Little Prayer, so Invisible Life, Just As I Am, and This Too Shall Pass, If This World Were Mine, Abide With Me, all the ones that have these covers are great. The later work, closer to the time when Lynn Harris actually passed, I would say that they aren't necessarily, I wouldn't immediately recommend those, but I think that Invisible Life is a great place to start. Lynn Harris was an author that kind of really pioneered and brought to greater worldwide attention just the lives of Black queer men. And it talks about, just and I always hate to say it, but just like down low culture and just, I mean, and even like the fact that so many of his characters are bisexual Black men, like that's something that you don't hear people talk about much at all, just having that representation. And, the language wasn't always there in these earlier novels, but I think that it really is a great place to start if you're looking for books by Black queer authors. So Invisible Life by Lynn Harris. This is a book that I hold very close to my heart, and I always recommend it. I never let anybody borrow this one. But yeah. This next one, I'm not going to judge you if you have not read it. I'm not. I think I was actually watching another booktuber's video, and she said that she had never read it, but all is forgiven. If you've seen the movie, okay, read the book. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. And some people may say, what? Black queer literature? The Color Purple by Alice Walker? Yes, everybody, Celie is gay. Celie is a Black queer woman. The language was not necessarily there on the pages of this book, but there are scenes. There are scenes. Celie and Suge. And interestingly enough, I was reading very recently, with all the talk about The Color Purple and, the musical revival in 2018, 2019, now the film that is going to be coming out very soon. The fact that Alice Walker was very unhappy with Steven Spielberg sort of washing over the relationship between Celie and Suge and the queerness that was on the page, very clearly on the page. And so I really hope that when they come out with the new film adaptation of this, that they are not afraid, or that they don't shy away from that queerness, that relationship between two Black women. And The Color Purple is so beautiful. It's written in letters. And I think that just the way that Alice Walker put this together, it's just gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I encourage everybody to actually read The Color Purple, because there is just so much. There's so much here. And I mean, it's literally on page 5. And I think that I actually marked all the times when I saw something. But when Celie, she said, "Dear God, he beat me today because he say I winked at a boy in church. I may have got something in my eye, but I didn't wink. I don't even look at men. That's the truth. I look at women, though, because I'm not scared of them." And I think that, there are bits and pieces where you're like, okay, it could have more than one meaning, but, Alice Walker, queer Black woman. So, yeah, always pick up The Color Purple. It's a must read. I think any time of the year, but yeah. Last but not least, in terms of books that I've already read, y'all probably knew it was coming, but The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. The Prophets, I mean, when I got the arc of this, I knew that it would change my life, and it did. And I think that this is definitely, it's one of those reads that it's very complex. There's a lot to it, and I definitely need to reread it very soon. I think I might reread it during the winter, sort of the same time of year that I picked it up last time, just kind of reflect. But The Prophets really sheds light on the fact that queerness is nothing new. Queerness is not something that was manufactured by Europeans, which I've heard a lot of rumors in some pseudo-intellectual documentaries that some people tend to watch. Queerness is nothing new, and we've seen so much evidence of it in literature from decades, centuries past. We've seen it evidenced in art from forever ago, before people were even able to put words on the page. It's not anything new, and we cannot sort of allow to allow us to be so fearful of what understanding that there were Black men that loved other Black men during times of slavery, and Black women that loved other Black women during times of slavery, and sort of that like implication of, no, the idea that people try to say is like a gay agenda being pushed to allow us to like completely erase the stories of so many of our ancestors. And people are like, well, you know, that was just automatically implying that if two men were engaged in a relationship with each other during the time of slavery, that it was non-consensual, or it was attempting to like break them or different things like that. No, like there were men in love during that time, and there were men that were engaged in relationships during that time. And I think that the Prophets does such a beautiful job of putting that together and, you know, showing that it didn't just start there. You know, same gender loving relationships have existed forever. And so the Prophets does a beautiful job of that. And so I would always encourage people to pick this up, you know, pick it up when the time is right, when you have the time to really sit there and sort of take all this in, when you can take the notes, when you can, you know, reflect. So The Prophets is just a beautiful, beautiful book. And I would definitely encourage everybody to pick this up. I'm excited to see what Robert Jones Jr. puts out next. Yeah, these are the ones that I have not read and or have started reading. And I'm excited to talk about these because they all look so good. And I've started one of them, haven't started the other two, but I'm excited because I'm reading another with a group of my friends, putting together like a sort of like mini book club with them with these novels. And so yeah, excited to talk about them. All fiction, all fairly light. So I'm going to start with the one that I have started because I'm actually really, really enjoying this so far. It's now in paperback, but I think it's the same cover in paperback, but it's Let's Get Back to the Party by Zach Salih. Hopefully I said that correctly. Apologies if I didn't. But Let's Get Back to the Party. I'll just read the description. It is 2015, weeks after the Supreme Court marriage equality ruling, and all Sebastian Moat wants is to settle down. A high school art history teacher, newly single and desperately lonely, he envies his queer students their freedom to live openly the youth he lost to fear and shame. When he runs into his childhood friend, Oscar Burnham, at a wedding in Washington, D.C., he can't help but see it as a second chance. Now 35, the men haven't seen each other in more than a decade, but Oscar has no interest in their shared history, nor in the sense of belonging Sebastian craves. Instead, he's outraged by what he sees as the death of gay culture, bars overrun with bachelorette parties, friends coupling often having babies. For Oscar, conformity isn't peace, it's surrender. While Oscar and Sebastian struggle to find their place in a rapidly changing world, each is drawn into a cross-generational friendship that treads the line between envy and obsession. Sebastian with one of his students, Oscar with an older icon of the AIDS era. And as they collide again and again, both men must reckon not just with one another, but with themselves. Provocative, moving, and rich with sharply drawn characters, Let's Get Back to the Party introduces an exciting and contemporary new talent. And y'all, I started reading this on my plane ride to Philly because I went to Roots Picnic. Great time. Highly would recommend. I think that it's something that actually Lynn Harris talks about a little bit in some of his books, something that he tackled, you know, prior to, you know, marriage equality being achieved. But this is sort of like that sort of like that battle that a lot of, you know, elder Black queer folks, middle-aged Black queer folks, and then younger Black queer folks, that sort of divide of like, okay, now we've achieved a marriage equality, there still is so much that has not changed. However, there's the side of people that kind of want to assimilate, get married, be very like, live that very like heteronormative sort of life. And then there are those that are like, I want to go out, defy all society's expectations. And it's just like, why are we settling for this sort of life? And then there's those that are kind of just like in the middle, that see, you know, bits and pieces of both sides. And it's a conversation that I think is something that just stays within the community, and it's something that people sometimes bring up within the community. So I think that this book does a really good job of kind of like bringing those perspectives into this. And I mean, overall, it's just it's very entertaining. It's very interesting. So let's get back to the party. I'm excited to see where the story goes. I'm like a third of the way through and I'm really enjoying it so far. The next two the next one I've really been super excited to read. I was supposed to read it, read it, but y'all, that's when I kind of did my disappearing act. But B-Boy Blues. And I've been talking about wanting to read this forever. And I ordered the book last summer, I think. Still have not actually read it. But B-Boy Blues, it's recently been turned into a film, which is on BET+. Jesse Smollett directed it. It looks lovely. I want to read the book before I watch the film. So I'm going to read it this month and then watch the movie. B-Boy Blues. Okay, so it's Mitchell Crawford always wished, hoped, and dreamed for a roughneck, a hip-hop loving, street-strutting, cool-posing, crazy, crotch-grabbing brother, and he finally finds one in Raheem Rivers, who is the vision of lust, 6 feet tall and 215 pounds of mocha chocolate muscle. Mitchell knows Raheem will take him for a walk on the wild side, especially between the sheets, but he doesn't count on getting behind Raheem's mask and finding someone he can love. This is a book about two queer Black men in love and, well, falling in love. I'm excited. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard some people, with their critiques or whatever, but I've always wanted to read this. It came out in 1994. James Earl Hardy published this in 1994. And no matter what it actually is, I know I'm going to enjoy it. And so I'm very excited to read this month, and I will make sure to do a full review. And then last but not least, this is a new book, and Robert Jones Jr. and Deisha Phil, y'all, The Prophets and The Secret Life of Church Ladies authors. I had to read it. So they both did blurbs for the book, and as soon as I saw that, I said I have to get this. It's called Boys Come First, and it's by Alan Foley. Y'all see these three brown-skinned Black men on this cover. I had to pick it up, y'all. Had to pick it up. So it says, after a devastating layoff and sudden breakup, Dominic Gibson flees his life in NYC to try and get back on track in his hometown of Detroit. His one objective, exit the dating pool ASAP and get married by 35. The deadline's approaching fast. Dominic reunites with his best friend, Troy, and meets Remy, a successful real estate agent who's got relationship problems of his own. And when a high-stakes deal threatens to blow up their friendship, the three men have to learn how to navigate life's pitfalls as well as a city that's changing overnight. Full of unforgettable characters, Boys Come First is a hilarious, touching look at the highlights and hiccups, awkward hookups, work-life microaggressions, and of course, the group chat that define Black gay millennial life in today's Detroit. Y'all, I'm from Ohio. Detroit's not that far. I am super excited for this. So, I will most definitely be reading this month, and I'm supposed to be reading it as a part of the book club, but I can't wait. Supposed to be reading that in July. So I'm getting like a bunch of guys together, with some help, of course, to just, pick up a good Black queer novel and get into it and discuss and talk and just have a good time. So, Boys Come First by Aaron Foley. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. So, these are all of the books that I will hopefully be picking up during this month and reading, and also the ones that I have already read that you should definitely pick up. So if you enjoyed these recommendations and want some more, just, follow me on social media. I always try to give recommendations, keep everybody up to date with what I've been reading. And, I'm excited for this year. Some great stuff is coming out. We've got a lot of sequels coming out to books I've read. Yeah, I'm excited. So my handle is tobeblackandloved on all my social media. So definitely follow me over there. Make sure you press that like button. Make sure you press that subscribe button. Tune into the videos all Pride Month and for the rest of the year. Go to the backlog. Check out some of my other recommendations. And I will see you all very, very soon. Happy Pride Month. And always remember, that you are loved.